just start the foundation of your own house. For over 4 months now, I've been living out here, setting up for a simple off-grid house build. And it's finally come time to receive the first load of materials, the foundation materials, and just get at it. So in this episode, I finally finished my shed off. My 300-foot well gets hydrofracked, and I start messing around with the ICF materials that were brought for the foundation. I think they're the best foundation materials out there, so that's why I chose them. Do I know what I'm doing with them? Sort of. We'll find out. And at the end, as usual, there's a Q&A, including one of my bear stories in there that everyone's asking for, and nature sounds at the very end of the video to play you out if you need to listen to them. Since the winter of 2026, I've been living in my tent on 25 acres of wildland that I bought. I sold my place just before, and now I'm spending all my money on an off-grid house build. When it's done, there will be no mortgage and only a few bills to pay because I'll be on well water and solar power. I've done this once before though. This is my first log cabin you're seeing. I cut this thing right from the trees off the land. It was a simpler build, but I did it for the exact same reasons. Freedom and immersion in nature. It was home base for 5 years. Though I love the round and rustic logs in my first cabin, for my house, I'm using squared logs from a local mill. You see, I'm not a builder by trade. I'm a musician and an all-around regular dude, so for a house build, I'm not messing around. I'm going to build something I can actually handle and something I can hopefully get into before this winter. Of course, there will be a log cabin built deep in the property once the house is done. That'll be the next project, but for any dreamers out there looking for a way out of the system, take my videos as a blueprint for one way to get there. Because if I can make this happen, well, so can you. Well, just jumping straight into it here, folks. Lots has been happening around here, and lots also happened before the ICF showed up at the end of this week. As you know, I just built a shed in behind my tent. This was an absolute must. I was living amongst all my tools and my living space was just a constant mess. So the shed is up and it's time to put shelving everywhere to get everything off the ground and to build a workbench. This isn't going to be anything fancy. All of the shelving and the workbench is just going to be put together from scraps or cut-offs lying around that were created from building the actual shed. There's definitely no need to go into town for a supply run to do any of this. And the wood lying around is plenty strong for shelves. Keep in mind though, I'm no expert at any of this. I'm a guy with some experience. I'm mostly just sick of waiting around for enough money, enough time, or enough skill to act on any visions that I have. So I'm just getting it done where I'm at. I must have some form of builder's dyslexia or something. I tend to install things and measure things so they end up completely backwards when they get to their final destinations. I totally did that with this workbench table. One of those hard things about working alone all the time is that there's no one there to correct you when you're going down the wrong path for a while. Eventually, I got this bench properly fitted though. I don't ever draw out plans. I didn't look at any YouTube videos for what I was doing here. I just sort of imagined it and started going for it. Some of it was made up on the fly. There was plenty of frustrating moments, especially adding the lower shelf under the workbench, but it's surprising where a bit of persistence can get you. Yeah, that passes the test, thank you. I was in a rush to get this shed done before the foundation materials arrived, so next I built all the shelves my leftover wood would allow me to build. And actually, sticking all these blocks in between the studs to support the shelves is actually really strengthening the walls. So technically, these shelves are sort of structural. It's definitely strengthening this whole shed, so that's always a good thing. All the 2x8 cutoffs from the floor joists were turned into diagonal supports for the shelves. I just used a trusty old speed square to lay it all out, and I ended up with tons of diagonals for the shelves. It's a lot cheaper to do it this way than to actually buy shelving support or something like that from the hardware store. Not to mention it reduces all the waste you're putting out there. And then of course plywood was cut to be the actual surface of the shelves. And voila, a stronger shed with loads of space now for storage. It's a beautiful thing when your cutoffs become really useful in the end. So, I used every last scrap I could to finish this off. All the plywood scraps that I bought to make the shed in the first place. All the 2x8s have turned into all these little diagonals you see there. And I thought I'd leave that corner wide open for taller stuff, you know, like brooms and brush cutters, whatever. I'm really happy with this bench. And look, it's even bang on, which is a new thing for me this year. And then yeah, upper shelf. You know, the only downside of all these is that these ends aren't too supported. But it's a shed. You can actually see some of them are warped already, you know. But you know what? This is a shed. And it is absolutely strong enough to hold all my stuff and do some chainsaw sharpening or fixing wires, whatever I got to do on that bench. Senior Blue Edward is right here. The power hub of this entire build now, and my tent. And yeah, we are coming along. All I really have to do now is spray foam some of the gaps in the wood that you can see beautifully through my camera. And that's pretty much it. On the outside of this House of Blues, we are gonna do board and batten at some point. When, I do not know. I am not sure. But the inside will be ready to hold all of my stuff, and that's all I care about. Yes. We have done something. This Blue Edward, as I like to call Sir Blue Eddy, is charging my other power packs that DJI has provided to me. So it is the mother of all power packs, this beautiful thing. And actually the generator can't even charge this DJI unit. Look at the amount of watts it's putting out. That's huge. My generator can't do that. The startup watts is too much for this, for charging these power packs. So that thing is now going to go in my kitchen. This thing is going to stay here and run my life in terms of power. And I'm going to run a line in, I'm just going to plug in an extension cord and run it into the tent, which is just behind this wall. And then I'm gonna have a power bar and I'm gonna have power in the tent. Can you believe it? But this thing is just amazing. It is charging my power packs. I love it. The first time I did this, I had no power. I had, when I built my first cabin, I didn't have any sort of a generator for 5 months, okay? I was just charging stuff in my car. That was it. And I didn't even know, at that point in my life, I never used a generator. I didn't know what a generator was until I got a generator, a Champion generator, the really loud ones that don't put out that much power. I got one of those. So like when I see this thing, the Blue Eddy, it's such a game changer. I do not take these things for granted. This thing is amazing. So, going off grid these days, if you have some of these things, it is not so hard at all. I've done it without these and it's a lot harder. So like, this is cushy. This is cushy living. And now onto my well situation. The drillers left a few weeks ago, and basically I have a 300-foot hole with not much water in it, so it's time to see what's going on down there, and it's time to hydrofrack this thing. So I'm just gonna take a pebble here. I'm looking for a little pebble. There we go, a tiny one. I'm gonna drop this tiny thing down the hole, and we're gonna count to see how long it takes to get down there. See how much water's in there. It's about, keep that going. It's about 10 feet per second. So here we go, ready? Did you hear that? I did hear it, thank you very much. The water must have flowed in through all the cracks over time while the well guys were away. They drilled it and there's like, oh, there's not much water in there, and it's probably seeped in. So I'm new to all this. I don't know how wells work all that much other than you get water in a big hole. So I'm getting it hydrofracked, and they should be coming today. And look who showed up right on time, the hydrofracking guys. So let's explain exactly what hydrofracking is, or I'll try my best anyways. So the well was first filled with approximately 300 gallons of clean water. Then these guys brought this high pressure packer and installed it 30 feet into the bedrock to isolate the fracture zone. Pressure was gradually increased now to a maximum of 2,000 psi. As pressure built up, it reached approximately 1,500 psi before beginning to fall to 800 and then 400 psi and finally stabilizing around 200 psi. This pressure drop indicated that the bedrock had successfully fractured, allowing water to enter newly open fractures within the rock. A few hundred additional gallons of water were then pumped into the formation while maintaining about 200 psi of pressure. This helped flush and develop the newly opened fractures. So once the formation accepted the water and all the pressure bled off, the packer was removed. A test pump was put in, and the well was pumped continuously for about 3 hours. And the end result was a good 1.5 to 2 gallons per minute. This is considered an excellent result for a typical sort of residential home. So that's hydrofracking in a nutshell, if you got all that. So this is the evening after hydrofracking. And if you look down there, you can see a bit of light. That is the water, my friends. The water level has really come up. Do you like my echo? Actually, the echo is less echoey than before, which means the water has come up. Let's drop a stone down there, a pebble. Count with me. Ready? 2, 3. About 5 seconds, baby. It's a fine morning out in the forest. We are going straight to the well this morning, and we're going to check to see that water level, folks. The hydrofracking happened well less than 24 hours ago, but this is the morning after, and the moment of truth. Is there more water in there? Let's check. Ooh, see that little shining light? That's a good sign. Let's drop a stone down there. Here we go. 1, 2. Hey. We have water. There's a lot of water in there now. It's a 300-foot deep hole, and the water is almost like 10 to 20 feet down, that's it. And I have a feeling it's just gonna keep climbing over the course of the day because it's climbed that much since they've hydrofracked, which means that the hydrofracking has successfully opened a seam in the earth. They've tapped into a seam. That's all you need. And then one of those seams is now pushing water into the well consistently, and it's filling it up. So I got water. Ah, God, that feels good to say that. What a day. Look at this. What a day out here. Love it. It was fun to see this critter show up here. A garter snake. A good sized one too. Totally unafraid of me. I was probably the first person this thing's ever seen. I also hopped into the woodpile again. The materials were going to get here soon, so I wanted this taken care of before a new mess was created. And as a reminder, these big pines you're seeing in here are all going to be milled up for building things inside. The rest is just going to be firewood. And now that the shed was all done, I finally got an extension cord from my Blue Eddy into my tent. So now I have a lot of power in the tent anytime I need it. It's a serious upgrade, and I was happy to see it happen. So today's the day before materials are dropped off. In a bit of a panic, I decided to last minute extend my building layout by 9 feet forward towards the driveway. Maybe it would be easier for ICF if I did that, and spoiler, in the end it didn't matter at all. But it's always fun to use that rotary drill, I guess. And there'll be an 8-foot porch on the building anyways, so it gives me a bit of a visual for what it's going to look like with the porch on there, with these new bars I put in. I've also mentioned in previous videos that I might have to pump my sewage and wastewater upwards towards a septic tank. Well, spoiler alert on that as well. Turns out I can do gravity feed, and that's a massive upgrade and a massive relief for me. I just did some math wrong, and it's all part of the process out here, so I'm high up enough that we can gravity feed that pipe into the septic. Good morning. This is the morning of the ICF day. I've been clearing the build site so it's nice and spick and span along the chalk lines, or along the string lines. And I even put in new posts just in case we move the building forward. I put it forward 9 feet. Why, you ask? Well, because the back dips right down. You can't really see with the phone. Maybe if I go like this, you can kind of see the back dips right down, and we want to be up as high as we can. So I moved some pegs forward. Here's the other one. Moved it forward, see? And we'll see how this goes. Got some more cleaning to do. I got to actually pump that puddle out right now. That's on the agenda. I haven't used a pump in a while, but I turned on one of my DJI power packs and It ran the pump no problem. I just threw it in the water and away it went. I can't say how much I love these new power packs. Just how clear it is, like the technology has gotten so much better. This pump takes less power than my blender at about 200 watts. I get 70% left. Well, before I knew it, Rob has arrived with a literal mountain of materials for me. This load has all the foam for the build. The ICF, the insulation, and the in-floor heat insulation. Rob then went and bent a bunch of rebar for me right on the back of his truck. So here's my new pile of stuff. Let me show you what's going on here. I got a bunch of scrap wood to brace the ICF walls. That's all the ICF there. ICF. All this stuff is going to be the insulation that goes on the outside of the roof. And then this stuff here, which I'll open up and show you, is the insulation that goes inside the concrete for your in-floor heat. That's what it looks like. So all the foam is here. And now, what do I do? So now with this super fancy laser level, I set a 12-inch high point at the front of the house. This is the lowest spot of the whole ICF foundation, so I'm measuring off of this mark. It took a bit to get it exactly at 12 inches, but I finally got it there. And once I got it, I went around to every single corner and stuck a 2x4 upright and attached it to the rebar. And then that level line I shot at the very beginning, I marked it on all those 2x4s. Knowing this very important line all the way around tells me the finished height of the foundation wall. As a reminder, this is just going to be a poured pad, not a basement. I can't afford a basement. If you want to put a basement on, you got to add about 50 grand to whatever you're paying. And like I said earlier, the good news is after finding all these lines and measurements, I know I'm in the clear to gravity feed my wastewater out of the house instead of pumping it upwards. This is great news if you're on solar power, so worth mentioning twice. So, I got myself in a crappy situation now. Since I'm a beginner at building a house, I've been depending on experienced people's wisdom on such matters, like the foundation. And turns out the guy who's been guiding me this whole time in the process, says I should scribe the ICF directly to the bedrock and go up from there. This whole time I've been like, yeah, it's great. I had another fellow over that I know, super experienced builder, basically just told me, whatever you do, don't do that. You need footings first. So that's a whole extra step. Now basically a footing would mean flat surfaces poured to put the ICF on top of. That just goes around the perimeter of the rectangle. Hey, that sounds great. It's totally a good idea to put ICF on a flat surface. But it's August. It's August. I don't know. I don't want to like build all these forms. I've never done that before. That's something I wasn't planning on taking on. Both of them are technically right approaches from what I understand. Pouring the form would be the much easier and the fastest way to go. But literally, you know, sometimes you talk to people who have done things for a long time, experts, basically. One says, I'm right. The other says, I'm right. And they both say the other is wrong. And then there's someone like me in the middle who is totally confused because I'm leaning on both of them for advice. And they both have disagreements on the most fundamental part of the building, the foundation. Anyways, I have to make some calls tomorrow, but I can't start doing much more than taking the measurements I just took, because I don't know if I want to waste a bunch of material if I'm going to have to pour footings according to the building people. So this is a tough time. Also, the drone is broken. One of my nice camera lenses is broken, or not working properly at all. I need to get it repaired. Tough times, folks. And I thought by August 1st I would have all this done already. I'd have all this done. I haven't even started yet. Now the question is, how long am I going to be in that tent? The entire winter? Like, when's this roof going on? I have no idea. So despite the mixed messages I've been getting and also a permit that's not totally ready yet, I'm going ahead with scribing this ICF right onto the bedrock anyways. I'm a bit in the weeds here. This is a more labor-intensive way to do it for sure, and not too many people do it this way. But guess what? Winter is coming, and I just got to start the foundation for my house. So here we go. I have a long road ahead of me on this foundation, but block by block, I'm going to have to get this thing done, because it's not going to do itself. And folks, as usual, it's now time for the Q&A section of the video, and if you need some nature sounds in your life, you can stick around to the very end and I'll play you out to about 10 minutes of nature sounds. Welcome folks to the Q&A, the official Q&A. I've actually dressed up for the occasion, as you can see in my formal attire here in the forest. And this is actually the morning of upload. This is a last minute Q&A, but sometimes it gets like this. The weeks are crazy here, so I'm glad I could do it at all. And as usual at the end, I'm going to put my favorite comment on birch bark, and there was no bad comments, which is slightly disappointing that I couldn't put on the Thunderbox, none that I found anyways, so I just put 2 good comments instead at the end. So I've written all your comments on my birch scroll here, and I'm going to read them all to you now. So let us begin. Christine Winter, that's a name that's familiar. After hearing the bear story, if I were you, I would be sleeping in the shed. I don't get it. You can build a shed, why not a small enclosure to sleep in for your safety? Anyways, are you building the house by yourself, or is there going to be workers who will help you? Wow, good questions. So my shed is for tools, the tent is for sleeping. I'm not too worried here with bears coming through my tent and ripping me to shreds or anything. It's just like, yeah, it's super rare. I'm taking my chances, of course, but I think you're more likely to die on the highway in a car crash than to encounter a black bear like that. I would have to be float plane access only remote, which I'm not here. I can actually drive to this spot. Even though I'm remote, the farther out you go, the more your chances go up of that sort of thing happening. Around here, I'm still okay. So I'm taking my chances. I'd rather sleep in a tent than a shed anyways. It's more ventilation. And I like camping. What was I going to say? You also asked, yeah. So my house, I don't have the skills to do absolutely everything by myself. I'm going to do everything by myself or my hands on it as much as possible. For example, the plumbing, I got to get a plumber to do this. To do a lot of the stuff inside the pad, for example. Because I don't know how to do that stuff, and as much as I enjoy doing these videos, I am not going to rewire my entire life to learn plumbing for a year in order to do that just for a video, if you know what I'm saying. Some people, you just don't want to mess around. If this were a cabin, I would figure it all out myself, yes. But this is like a house, and it's going to function like a little house way in the forest. So, I mean, like, I do need proper people doing proper things. Plumbing is the big one. Running the pipe out to the septic, installing the HVAC stuff for the in-floor heat. This is very complicated stuff that you can't just DIY. So there will be people doing specialized things for me, for sure. Jill Teft says, I had a question. Does your design allow for future additions if required? I am thinking potential wife and family. Yes, my septic allows for another human being here. My design is small. The loft is upstairs, which most people didn't see in the design I posted in the last video. There's a loft up top, which is a lot of space for a little kid. I don't know, a dog, baby, one of these things. But definitely, I am open to a fair maiden joining me out here. No problems there. And there's just enough space for all that to happen. And which is why I want to build a cabin in the back, so I can then leave the house to them and go do my work in the back. What happened to your original cabin? Oh, Guitar 198225 says, what happened to your original cabin? Do you still use it? Did you sell it? Why didn't you plan the house close by to the original cabin? Keep it up. You and James Ayla have contributed to a chilled Saturday afternoon, which I look forward to all week. That's awesome. Guitar 198225. Yeah, so I had to sell that old cabin. One of my earlier videos, if you look on the channel, I tell the story of it. I got robbed, long story short, and then I was like, all right, I got to get out of here. So that's the downside of some of these remote areas, is that there's a lot of people out here. They know that there's no cops around. They just get away with everything. And in Canada, like, our legal system seems to just allow for that. And the geography just allows for it. You can't really nail people down on things, so they just get away with everything. So I was in one of those situations, and I was like, all right, it was fun, but... okay, we're getting into the bear stuff now, which I promised at the beginning here. Poplar Ridge actually shares a bear story and says, I want to hear your sow and bear cub story. A sow bear charged me in 2015 near the Shenandoah River in Virginia. My dog was with me. He caught her scent and started moving toward her, and her yearling cub was in a tree. When I called my dog back, the mama bear charged me. She was about 20 yards away from me. I had drawn my knife when I first saw her. When she started charging, I reached down to grab my dog and roared like an animal. Fortunately, she turned less than 25 feet from me. I could see where she knocked down the underbrush, my most exciting moment ever in the outdoors. Needless to say, I love hearing about bear encounters. Very cool. Thank you for sharing that, Poplar Ridge. He wrote this comment on my last video, if you want to go find it. So I also have a cow and cubs, or sow and cub story. So the last bear encounter I told you about, this is the exact same location, the same tent. I lived in this tent for 6 months while I worked as a backcountry warden in Algonquin Park. And basically what happened was one morning it had rained all night. And when it rains, if you're a hunter, you know this, your scent gets washed away. It's like your reset button on the landscape. So there's no scent. Bear animals can come right up to you, get very close to you if it rains. That's when they're at their least aware. So I have a day off. I'm tired. I've been working in the park. I did a lot of chainsawing, clearing trails, and canoeing all the time. So I was like lying in the tent, and I could hear the vibrations in the ground, like as I was lying there, kind of tired. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's an animal close to me here. So I very sneakily got out of my tent. My tent was surrounded by underbrush. So I had like all this cover, like a circle of cover around me. And then just beyond it was open bedrock with moss. I was at the top of a big ridge. But just around me was enough cover. So I snuck out of my tent really quietly because I heard like, I could feel the vibrations. They were very light, but I could feel them. And, oh, my candle's going out. Can't have that. They were very light, but I heard them. So I get out of my tent real quiet. And I'm sitting in the moss. I look through the underbrush and there's a bear right there. We're talking 20 feet away from me. No idea I was there. And usually bears are so aware. So I give myself a pat on the back for being that quiet and that, sneaky around a bear. It had no idea I was right there. But it was 20 feet away from me, snooping around the little campfire pit I had made there. I didn't leave there's no food. It was just kind of curious. So I was sitting there watching this bear. And then all of a sudden, probably for a minute watching, my heart's just pounding because it has no idea I'm watching it. Usually it's the other way around. A distant my poor candle. A distant dog barked way down the hill. And this bear all of a sudden stands up right in front of me. I could see the dewdrops on its coat. That's how close this thing was to me. I could see it shining off the sun right in front of me. It stood up. It was a good, taller than me when it stood on its hind legs, and I'm 6 feet. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. And it just got back down, and it was sort of on its way out. And I'm thinking, maybe I'll go, hey, I'll say something to it. I'll just kind of spook it and see how it reacts, because I'm just curious how animals react. And I was like, I should do something, let it know I'm here, And then just before I did that, I was about to literally, okay, hey bear. Just before I said anything, I looked down, there's a cub right there. A little cub running on by, right? It almost ran at me. It ran this way, thankfully to me, following mama. But after that dog, the bears started to move, and I was about to say something, and there's a cub right there. I had no idea the cub was there the whole time. That is so sketchy. If that bear had seen me there at all, with her cub right there, like this story that was just said by Poplar Ridge, I would have got charged or hurt or maimed or who knows. I had no idea that I couldn't see that cub. I was so fixated on the big bear that I couldn't see the cub there. So my heart's pounding the whole time, and as I'm about to say something, I see this cub, and I close my mouth. I'm like, oh my God, don't make a move. Now I'm frozen solid, and then they thankfully turn around and go the other way. It was a very scary moment afterwards, because that could have gone very badly, very, very badly. Think about that when you're looking at a bear next time. There could be a cub nearby you're not seeing, and that is danger zone. And we're going to end with one here. That is my bear story. We're going to end with one here, folks. This is by M. Soroga. Talking about here the guy who gave me a little bit of a hard time in the comments last week. He said, that guy can take a hike. I'm a builder and a carpenter, and I love watching this. There's always many ways to build the same thing. Amen to that. I'm doing my best. I'm making mistakes. Live on camera for everyone to see. You're welcome. Anyways, we're going to end it there. I committed this one to birch bark and another one, which you're going to see now. And then I'm just going to end with nature sounds for those who need some nature sounds in their life. So, with that, folks, I sign off and wish me luck on this ICF. It is a crazy ride. Everyone's telling me different things, and I'm just a guy trying to learn. So if you have good advice about scribing ICF to rock, very obscure, but you might know it, let me know in the comments, please, please. Okay, folks, till next time, I will see you later.